When I answered the ad, I thought it was a joke. Night clerk needed for small-town convenience store. Midnight to dawn. Cash handling and cleaning. Must be good at following rules. The last line struck me as strange, but not enough to keep me from applying. After all, I was desperate. A year ago, I had a family. A wife who loved me. A daughter who adored me. A little house that always smelled like her cinnamon candles. But one accident, one stupid, brutal accident, left me alone. My wife, Megan, gone. My daughter, Emma, living with her grandparents because I was too broken to raise her. Since then, I'd been drifting from one dead-end job to another, always quitting or getting fired when the weight of my grief pulled me under. Bills stacked up, friends stopped calling, and eventually, I found myself walking through the flickering neon glow of Gary's Groceries on the edge of town, resume in hand. The owner, Mr. Cross, didn't smile when I walked in. He was tall, gaunt, with deep-set eyes that looked like they hadn't seen rest in years. He had the kind of face that carried grief the way some men carry scars. Etched deep, permanent, unspoken. "You're here for the ad?" he asked, voice low, almost tired. "Yeah," I said, trying not to sound too eager. "I can work nights. I've done retail before." He studied me for a long moment before reaching under the counter. He slid a laminated sheet toward me. "Read this." I expected a list of duties. Instead, what I got was rules. Rules for the night shift at Gary's Groceries. Once the clock strikes midnight, lock the front door. Do not open it for anyone, no matter how much they beg. Do not look at aisle 7 after 12:30 a.m. If something falls, leave it. If you hear a sound, ignore it. If a customer enters silently, ring up their items without speaking. Do not look them in the eyes. Do not follow them out. At 2:15 a.m., the lights may flicker. Stand still. Hold your breath. Do not move until the lights return. If you hear knocking from the freezer, do not investigate. Do not open the door. Do not acknowledge it. The man in the suit may arrive at 3:33 a.m. He will ask for cigarettes. Give him the unlabeled pack beneath the counter. Do not check his ID. Do not speak to him. Do not, under any circumstance, look at his face. If the radio behind the counter turns on by itself, let it play. If it stops, go to the break room and stay there until it starts again. At dawn, leave everything as it is. Do not take anything with you. Do not look back at the store once you've left. I looked up from the sheet, half smiling, waiting for him to laugh. He didn't. "These are rules," he said flatly. "Like a prank? Some kind of hazing for the new guy?" His eyes flicked up to mine, sharp and deadly serious. "No prank, no hazing. If you follow the rules, you'll make it through the night. If you don't..." His voice trailed off. He looked past me, as if remembering something he didn't want to. "Just follow them." I wanted to laugh it off, but something in his expression froze the sound in my throat. He wasn't joking, not even a little. "Pays cash at the end of each week," he added. "You want the job or not?" I thought of my empty fridge, the overdue rent notice, my daughter's small face when she asked if I was getting better yet. "I'll take it," I said. That night, at 11:57 p.m., I stood behind the counter of Gary's Groceries, laminated sheet tucked under the register, the hum of the refrigerators filling the silence. My hands shook a little as I watched the second hand on the clock crawl toward midnight. And when it struck 12, I locked the front door. The store was quieter than any place I'd ever been. The kind of quiet that pressed against your ears until you swore you could hear your own heartbeat. At first, I busied myself with tasks, straightening shelves, wiping down the counter, stocking gum and candy. The motions felt normal, safe. If I focused on the work, maybe I wouldn't think about the bizarre rules or the way the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry wasps above my head. But then, at 12:17 a.m., something happened. I was restocking chips when the front door rattled. I froze. The rules came back to me instantly. Once the clock strikes midnight, lock the front door. Do not open it for anyone, no matter how much they beg. Through the glass, I saw a man. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, and his fists hammered the door in a frantic rhythm. Hey, man, let me in, please. His voice was muffled but urgent. Car broke down. I just need to use your phone. My chest tightened. He sounded desperate. I could see the sweat shining on his forehead even through the glass. But the rule was clear. Do not open it. I shook my head, raising a hand apologetically, mouthing, "Sorry." He pounded harder. His eyes darted to the parking lot behind him, then back to me. "You don't understand. Please, it's after midnight. I just need to come in for a second." Something moved in the lot. At first, I thought it was a trick of the flickering streetlight. But no, there was a figure out there. Tall, impossibly tall, with limbs too long, standing just beyond the circle of light. Watching. The man at the door didn't seem to notice. He just kept begging, louder now, slamming his fists until I thought the glass might break. I forced myself to back away from the door. My legs trembled, and then he stopped. He turned to look over his shoulder. The figure stepped closer. The man screamed, not words, just raw terror, the kind of sound that curdles your blood. He bolted into the dark, running full speed, and the figure followed, impossibly fast, melting into the shadows. The parking lot was empty again. I stood there, rooted, my breath ragged. The rules hadn't lied. When I finally managed to move, I locked the door tighter, checking it twice, 3 times, as if that flimsy lock could protect me from what I'd just seen. I sat behind the counter, clutching the rule sheet like it was a Bible. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. And then, from aisle 7, I heard a can fall. The can rolled slowly across the floor of aisle 7, making a hollow little sound that echoed far louder than it should have. I froze. The laminated sheet's words screamed in my head. Do not look at aisle 7 after 12:30 a.m. If something falls, leave it. If you hear a sound, ignore it. The clock on the wall read 12:42 a.m. My throat was dry. Every part of me wanted to peek around the corner, to confirm it was just gravity, just chance, just a shelf giving way under too much weight. But the memory of that man screaming outside the door kept me rooted. He hadn't followed the rules. Look what happened. I forced myself to stay behind the counter, knuckles white on the edge of the register. The can finally stopped rolling, spinning once before going still. The silence after was suffocating. Then, from the back came the knocking. A steady, deliberate rhythm. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. It was coming from the freezer. My stomach dropped. Another rule. If you hear knocking from the freezer, do not investigate. Do not open the door. Do not acknowledge it. But the sound was so human. Too human. Maybe it's someone stuck in there. The thought wormed into my mind, wrapping around my reason. What if someone had gotten trapped? It happened in restaurants. People went in for stock and the latch failed. What if I just cracked the door? Just to make sure? The knocks came again. Louder. Faster. I stood, legs moving on their own, drawn down the narrow aisle toward the freezer section. Each step felt like walking into cold water. The hum of the refrigeration units grew louder, like a growl under the floor. When I reached the heavy metal door, the knocking stopped. The silence was worse. I pressed my hand against the steel. It was ice cold, biting into my skin. Then softly, faintly, I heard it. A voice. A child's voice. "Daddy!" My hand jerked back like I'd been burned. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, I must have imagined it. Must have. But the sound was so clear, so full of pleading. And worse, it wasn't a stranger's voice. It sounded like Emma, my little girl. The exact way she used to call me when she had a nightmare, small and trembling, clutching her blanket. "Daddy!" I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. My vision blurred with sudden tears. It wasn't her. Couldn't be. Emma was safe, far away, sleeping at her grandparents'. But the freezer knew. It knew my weakness. I clutched the edge of the nearest shelf until my knuckles ached, forcing myself to whisper aloud, "It's not her. It's not her." The voice faded. The silence returned. I staggered back to the counter, shaking so badly I could hardly breathe. I didn't dare look at the cameras, didn't dare check aisle 7 again. The rules weren't suggestions. They were lifelines, and if I slipped, even for a second, something was waiting to use my grief against me. The rest of the night crawled by in uneasy silence. I clung to the rules like scripture. Every hum of the refrigerators, every flicker of the lights a reminder of what waited if I faltered. When dawn came, pale light spilling through the glass doors, I practically ran to my car. My hands still shook on the steering wheel as I drove home. I didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice, Emma's voice. I told myself I wouldn't go back, that no paycheck was worth this. But when evening came, my empty fridge and the rent notice on my table spoke louder than my fear. "You made it through your first night," he said. His voice was flat, but his eyes searched my face, as if looking for cracks. "Yeah," I said, swallowing hard. "Some weird stuff." He didn't ask for details. He just nodded, almost as if he'd expected me to say that. "It gets easier. Just keep the rules." He started to leave, then paused. His shoulders sagged, like he was carrying something heavy. "Daniel," he said quietly, "don't listen to the voices, no matter who they sound like. They'll tell you anything to make you open that freezer. Anything." Then he left me alone. That night, the store felt heavier, like the air itself was watching me. At 12:26, I was sweeping near the candy aisle when I felt it. Presence. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. I turned slowly, flashlight trembling in my hand, and I saw her, at the far end of aisle 7, just beyond the flickering light. A little girl in a white dress. Her back was to me. Her blonde hair hung in loose waves, catching the sickly glow of the fluorescence. She stood perfectly still, small hands at her sides. My heart stopped. I wasn't supposed to look. The rules were clear, but I couldn't help it. I was frozen. Then she moved, just slightly, tilting her head, like she knew I was there. My flashlight slipped in my sweaty hand, clattering to the floor. The beam rolled across the tiles, and when it lit up the aisle again, she was gone. My chest heaved. My hands shook as I scrambled to grab the light. The aisle was empty, but in the thin layer of dust on the tiles, I saw them. Footprints. Small.
Bora.
leading straight toward the freezer door. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. I knew who she was. Not Emma, not some stranger. Lily, the missing girl. The one from the old newspaper clippings I barely remembered. The owner's daughter. Her ghost was here, and she wanted me to follow. I couldn't get the footprints out of my head. That night, I drove home as the sun came up, eyes bloodshot, palms still trembling on the steering wheel. Instead of collapsing into bed like I usually did, I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and searched. Lily Cross missing. It didn't take long. Small towns keep their tragedies close. The articles were over a decade old. Headlines filled with words like tragedy and heartbreak. Lily was 7 years old. Blonde hair, green eyes. The same little girl I'd seen in the aisle. She vanished one winter night while her father, Gary Cross, was working late at the store. They never found her body. Some said she'd wandered off into the woods nearby. Others whispered about foul play, but no one was ever charged. I stared at her school photo, the one every article used. A little girl in a white dress, smiling shyly at the camera. The same dress I'd seen last night. I didn't believe in ghosts. Not really. But my rational mind was running out of excuses. Lily was here, in the store, and she wanted something. When I came in that night, Mr. Cross was behind the counter. He rarely stayed past midnight, but tonight he lingered, staring down at a stack of receipts like they were written in a foreign language. I hesitated, then blurted out, "She's here, isn't she?" He didn't look up. "Who?" "Your daughter." My voice cracked on the word. "Lily." For a long time he didn't move. His hands curled into fists over the papers. Then, quietly, he said, "You saw her?" "Yeah." I swallowed hard. She's not at peace, is she?" He laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. "Peace? No, not here. Not ever." Finally, he looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, his face gray with exhaustion. "This place, this store, it's not just walls and shelves. It's a cage, and Lily's stuck inside." The air between us grew heavy. My chest ached. "I thought, maybe she just got lost," I said softly. "Maybe she wandered off that night." His jaw tightened. "That's the story I told them. That's the story I told myself." He rubbed a hand over his face, shoulders sagging. "But the truth is worse. So much worse." I waited, but he didn't go on. He just stood, grabbed his coat, and left me with the rules and the ghosts. As the clock struck midnight, I locked the door and whispered to the empty store, "Lily, I'm sorry." The aisles seemed to sigh in response. It was just past 2:15 a.m. when the lights flickered. I froze, remembering the rule. Stand still. Hold your breath. Do not move until the lights return. The fluorescence sputtered, plunging me into darkness. I held my breath, every muscle locked. For a moment, I thought I heard breathing near me, soft, childlike. Then the lights buzzed back to life. The store was empty. I exhaled shakily, clutching the counter for support. That was when I noticed something under the register. A folded sheet of paper, yellowed with age. I pulled it out, hands trembling. It was a drawing. Crayons on notebook paper. A house, a stick figure family, mom, dad, and a little girl with blonde hair. In the corner, a small heart with the name Lily written inside it. My throat tightened. Before I could process it, the door to the break room creaked open. Mr. Cross stepped out, though I hadn't heard him come in. His face went pale when he saw what I was holding. "Where did you get that?" His voice was sharp, panicked. "It was under the counter," I said. "Did she draw this?" He snatched it from me, hands shaking as he folded it back up. For a moment, he looked like he might break. "She drew it the night she disappeared," he whispered. "She gave it to me before bed. Said she wanted me to keep it while I was at work." His eyes glistened, but there was something else there too. Something darker. "You said she disappeared while you were at the store," I said carefully. "But were you really here the whole time?" His jaw clenched. His gaze flicked to the freezer door. I felt my stomach drop. "You didn't lose her," I whispered. "She died here, in this place. Didn't she?" He didn't answer, but the silence was answer enough. Tears stung my eyes. My chest ached with something more than fear, grief, anger, sorrow for a child who never got to grow up. Mr. Cross turned away, his voice low, ragged. I thought I could keep her safe. I made rules, bargains. I did everything they asked." He pressed a hand to his face, trembling. "But it wasn't enough. It's never enough." I wanted to press him, to demand answers, who they were, what bargains he meant. But before I could speak, the freezer knocked 3 times. And I swear, beneath the hollow echo, I heard a girl's sob. The freezer knocked again, louder this time. Mr. Cross gripped the counter so tightly his knuckles went white. "Don't answer it," he muttered, more to himself than me. "Don't you dare answer it." But the sound wasn't just knocking anymore. Between the wraps there was sobbing. A little girl's voice. "Daddy, it's cold." My chest constricted. My vision blurred. Emma's face flickered in my mind. Her tiny arms reaching for me after nightmares. Her soft whisper in the dark. "Daddy, don't leave." It wasn't her. I knew it wasn't her. But grief doesn't care about knowing. Grief only cares about hurting. I staggered toward the freezer before I even realized I was moving. "Daniel!" Mr. Cross's voice snapped like a whip. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging into my flesh. "That's not her. That's not anyone you love. That's it using you." I stared at him, trembling. "Then what is it? What the hell is in there?" He shook his head, jaw trembling, eyes haunted. "Not what? Who?" Before I could demand more, the store plunged into darkness. The fluorescence snapped off. The hum of the fridges died. Silence swallowed everything. And then slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from aisle 7. My blood turned to ice. I couldn't see a thing, but I could feel it. Something tall, wrong, moving closer. Each step made the air heavier, like the oxygen was being sucked from the room. A shape emerged in the dark, blacker than the shadows themselves. Too tall, limbs bending at impossible angles, its head cocked as if studying me. And then its voice, not spoken aloud, but in my head. "Daniel." My knees buckled. It knew my name. "I can give her back to you." My breath hitched. "W what?" "Your daughter, Emma. You miss her. You ache for her. I can bring her back. All I need is a door." The freezer. The weight of its meaning crushed me. The thing inside wasn't just feeding on grief. It was using it, manipulating it. "You're lying," I whispered. It tilted its head, and I swear I felt it smile. "Does it matter? Wouldn't you rather believe in hope than in loss?" The footsteps drew nearer, circling me like a predator. I squeezed my eyes shut, clinging to the rule sheet still folded in my pocket. "No," I whispered, voice breaking. "No deals. No doors." The air shifted. The pressure lifted. When I opened my eyes, the lights flickered back on. The aisle was empty. Mr. Cross was slumped against the counter, staring at me like he'd just seen me hang over a cliff. "You talk to it," he whispered. I didn't answer, because deep down I knew the truth. Part of me wanted to say yes. The next night I came in early. I needed answers. Mr. Cross wasn't there. The store was silent except for the hum of the fridges. I pulled out the laminated rule sheet, intending to study it again. But when I unfolded it, my stomach dropped. There were new rules, ones I'd never seen before. Rules for the night shift at Gary's Groceries. Do not leave the store between 3 o'clock and 4 a.m., even if you hear your name being called outside, especially if it sounds like someone you love. If the security cameras show something that isn't in the aisles, do not look for it. Do not acknowledge it. If you hear footsteps behind you while you are alone, do not turn around. Keep walking. They will stop eventually. Do not burn this paper. Do not throw it away. The rules are watching you too. I dropped the sheet like it had bitten me. Couldn't have changed. It was laminated, and yet the new rules were there in the same neat type as the others. My skin crawled. Something was writing them. Not Mr. Cross. Not me. Something else. At 3:12 a.m., the security cameras flickered. For a moment, the aisles on the monitor were empty. Then, one by one, shapes appeared. Figures. Dozens of them. Standing between the shelves. Silent. Still. Their faces blurred like smudged glass. But in the live aisles, there was nothing. Just humming fridges and stacked cereal boxes. I remembered the rule. Do not look for it. Do not acknowledge it. My stomach twisted. Then one of the blurred figures on the monitor turned its head and looked directly into the camera. The screen went black. The black screen of the camera hummed with static. I leaned closer, breath fogging the glass. Then flicker. The feed returned, and I froze because I was on the monitor. Not behind the counter where I stood now staring at the screen, but in the aisles, walking slowly, deliberately down aisle 7. My reflection, my double, moved with a strange stiffness, like a puppet on strings. His head tilted at an unnatural angle. I whipped my head toward aisle 7. Empty, but on the screen he kept walking, step by step closer to the freezer. No, my whisper barely left my lips. The doppelganger paused. Then he turned his head, not toward the freezer, not toward the aisle, toward me, straight into the camera. My blood turned to ice. On the monitor, his lips moved. Soundless words formed. Let me out. The lights flickered. I staggered back, slamming against the wall. My hand found the rule sheet in my pocket, crumpled and damp with sweat. Rule 10 burned in my mind. If the security cameras show something that isn't in the aisles, do not look for it. Do not acknowledge it. But I had looked. The monitor snapped to static, and from aisle 7 came the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, closer. I backed toward the counter, heart hammering. No, 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 no. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I forced myself to look. The aisle was empty, but on the tiles, in the thin dust, fresh footprints trailed from the freezer toward the counter, toward me. By dawn, I was barely standing. My shift ended, but I didn't leave. Couldn't, not with this weight in my chest. When Mr. Cross arrived, I was waiting at the counter. We need to talk, I said. He looked at me, exhausted. Not now, Daniel. Now. My voice cracked. She's here, your daughter. Lily. I've seen her. She's... She's trying to get out. And that thing, it's using her. Why? Why is she trapped here? For a long moment, he said nothing. His hands trembled as he lit a cigarette, inhaling deep. Finally, he whispered, "Because of me." The air seemed to stop. "I made a bargain," he said. His voice was hollow, broken. "That night, all those years ago, Lily was sick. Fever so high she could barely breathe. I was terrified I'd lose her. And then, this place offered me a deal. My skin crawled. What kind of deal?" He stared at the freezer door. Smoke curled around his head. "If I kept the store open, followed the rules, it would keep her alive. It promised me more time with her." My stomach turned. But bargains like that, they don't give, they take. Every night I worked, she got weaker. And then one night, his voice cracked. One night, she didn't wake up, and the store kept her, trapped her. He pressed a hand to his face, sobbing quietly. "It was my fault. I wanted to save her, and instead I damned her." The betrayal burned hot in my chest. Not just Lily's betrayal, but mine too. Because for a moment, just a moment, I had thought about saying yes when the shadow offered me Emma. Grief makes fools of us all. I wanted to scream at him, to hate him for what he did. But looking at him, I saw nothing but a broken man who had loved his daughter so much he'd lost her twice. Once to sickness, once to the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, that was worse than death. Mr. Cross looked at me, tears streaking his face. "Daniel, whatever you do, don't listen to it. Don't make the same mistake I did." But it was too late, because in the silence of the store, in the corners of my mind, I could already hear the shadow whispering, "I can give her back to you." The next night, I walked into Gary's groceries like a condemned man walking to the gallows. The air was heavier than ever, thick with rot and static. The rules sat heavy in my pocket, but I barely glanced at them. I already knew tonight would break them all. Mr. Cross wasn't there. For the first time since I'd started, I was completely alone. At midnight, the front door clicked locked on its own. And then silence, until the freezer knocked. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. I staggered forward, unable to stop myself. My legs trembled, but my heart hammered with something like hope. Because the voice that followed wasn't Lily's this time. It was Emma's. "Daddy, please let me out. I'm cold." Tears blurred my vision. My hand hovered over the handle. "It's not her. It's not her." I repeated it like a prayer, but my body didn't believe it. The lights flickered, plunging the store into shadow. And then it was there, the shadow figure, towering, bent, smiling with no mouth. Its voice filled my skull. "Open the door, Daniel. Let her out. You'll see your daughter again. You'll hold her. You'll never be alone." Behind it, I saw Lily, the little girl in white, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. She shook her head slowly, as if begging me not to listen. My breath came in ragged gasps. "Why her?" I whispered. "Why keep Lily here?" The shadow tilted its head. "Every cage needs a key. Every bargain needs a price. She was the first, but she doesn't have to be the last." It reached a long, skeletal hand toward me. "Take my hand. Open the door. And Emma is yours again." My vision blurred with tears. Emma's face filled my mind. Her laugh, her small hand in mine, the unbearable ache of missing her. But then I looked at Lily, a child trapped, betrayed by her own father's bargain, condemned to an eternity of cold and shadows. And I saw myself. I saw the choice. I dropped to my knees, sobbing. "I can't. I won't. The shadow's form wavered, flickering with rage. Fool. The lights shattered. Glass rained down. The aisles shook as the thing shrieked in a voice that rattled my bones. But Lily stepped forward. For the first time, she looked right at me. "Thank you," she whispered. Her small hand brushed the freezer door, and the knocking stopped. The shadow howled, its body unraveling into smoke, torn apart by a force I couldn't see. The air shook with its fury until, with one last scream, it dissolved into nothing. The store fell silent. The lights flickered back on, and Lily was gone. All that remained was the faint sound of a child's laughter, light, free, fading into the dawn. When Mr. Cross arrived at sunrise, he found me slumped behind the counter, eyes hollow, hands still trembling. "It's over," I whispered. "She's free." For a moment, I thought he might collapse. His face crumpled, years of grief pouring out in one silent sob. "Thank you," he said. His voice cracked. "You did what I never could." I nodded, too tired to speak. That was my last night at Gary's Groceries. I packed up, left town, tried to build something resembling a life again. Emma stayed with her grandparents, but when I visited, I hugged her tighter than ever. I knew I couldn't bring her mother back. I couldn't undo what was broken, but I could keep her safe. And maybe that was enough. Still, some nights, when the world is quiet, I hear echoes. A knock in the walls, a voice in the dark, whispering my name. I tell myself it's nothing, just my mind still haunted. But last week, an envelope came in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single laminated sheet. New rules. Rules for a different store. Waiting for the next desperate soul who needs a job. And at the bottom, in small, neat letters, one final line. The rules are always watching.